she's passionate about telling stories of amazing women who are rocking the world and empowering women to live, love, and thrive. Here's your host, Catherine Gray.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live, Love, Thrive Women's Empowerment Hour, brought to you by 360karma.com. Today we have on an amazing author of the book RelationShift. We're going to talk about how letters can heal relationships and also about her activism with the world of bullying in schools. Please give a warm welcome to Kristine Grant. Hi, Kristine. How are you?
Oh, Catherine, I'm so glad to be here today.
Good to have you here, fresh in from San Diego.
Fresh as I can be. Yes.
Me too. So nice to have you on. And, I want to talk about everything from your beginnings, because I always like to know, where did people come from? What were their obstacles and challenges? And then talk about all the great work that you're doing. So your book, RelationShift, which we were just talking about, was, you had many famous authors that were endorsing your book, like John Gray, no relation to me. I wish he was. Hi, John. Why these famous authors got behind what you're doing? Because I feel like it's so unique, your approach about using letters to heal different relationships. So we're going to definitely talk about the book, RelationShift. And then also about your daughter's situation at school with bullying and how you got so involved as a marriage and psychotherapist. She was lucky, I think, to have you as a mom in that situation, because you know how to handle that type of situation. So we're going to share some of that advice with our listeners. Great. And then lastly, just want to talk about where you came from. So you were actually born here in California, right?
Yeah.
San Mateo.
San Mateo.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, fourth generation on my dad's side.
Yeah.
So.
And then I was surprised to learn that you actually were in the military.
I was the original Private Benjamin, I like to say.
Yeah, that's what you were telling me. Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
And you actually got to meet Goldie Hawn, who, of course, was Private Benjamin in the movies. Yeah.
Correct. That's right. That's right.
So did you tell her, hey, you're playing me? You know?
I did.
Yeah.
I actually did. Yeah. I was very young. I was 21. I took a script writing class, and I wrote about my quote adventures in the Army in Germany, the blonde going to Germany.
Oh my gosh.
And the professor happened to be a doctorate for MGM Grant. He was the script doctor, and so he said A+++ on my paper, and then he called me in after the class and literally picked my brains for about 2 hours. And then the Goldie Hawn series and the Goldie Hawn movie actually first came out. So yes, that was really surprising.
And I hear, maybe it's Goldie Hawn calling right now. I hear it ringing.
Yes.
Anyway, so what made you go into the military? And was it, did you have those Me Too movements that everybody's talking about happen in the military? I'm sure you must have.
Well, Catherine, since you've asked, I'm going to share. Yeah, I actually did. Yeah. I had a lot of drama and trauma in the military. Some pretty terrible things. Yeah. From having mud literally thrown on me because I wouldn't date the men, getting the worst jobs because I wouldn't kiss or date the men, having some real, nearly losing my life a couple of times. I'll put it that way. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I did have, and I was young. Yeah. I was a teenager, very much an independent young girl. I graduated from high school at 17 and on a lark moved to Hawaii and had wonderful time there. Started feeling guilty because I was having so much fun and I wasn't in college. Came back, and I'm an artist by nature. In fact, my first degree is in art. I got an art scholarship. Anyhow, my parents weren't supporting me in the arts, and they wanted me actually to be a nurse. The sight of blood is not my thing. So
and it's so true back then. Everybody's like, "Oh, you can be a secretary or a nurse."
Correct.
Right? That was the options back then.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I know millennials probably just can't wrap their head around that, but we have come so far, even though we have so far to go. I also think with this Me Too movement that a lot of men are getting woke to the fact that this Me Too thing has happened. It's just so prevalent. I don't care what industry you're in, whether it's military, Hollywood, or whatever. And I think it's really good that people are sharing their stories. And I say this every week because almost every week, women have these Me Too stories to share, which I don't think they would have shared on a show like mine just even a few years ago.
You're right.
Yeah.
And it goes on from there. I mean,
Yeah.
I was dating before we were married, my husband, we were kidnapped in Hollywood. Okay. And I was taken. And it was very treacherous experience.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, ridiculous. Nearly, and I know this is G-rated, but I had almost a hypodermic needle with hydrochloric acid injected and a gun held to my head. I mean, crazy stuff. I was still very young. I was in my 20s.
Now, this wasn't in the military.
No,
this
was
now
after.
was in Hollywood.
Yes.
Oh my
so
gosh.
I used to think, wow, what's going on? But I'll tell you something. There is the gift wrapped in sandpaper, as they say, and that was it at a young age. How I'm here today speaking with you was an innate, amazing, inspired notion when I was nearly killed in the process of being murdered to call forth God, the divine, and to look at the perpetrator as a human that was very disturbed, like a wild animal, and calm him down.
Wow.
Actually stroke his back.
Wow.
Yeah. And and while his friend watched.
Yeah.
I guess I have to write a book on all this.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
right. That is a whole nother Oprah, isn't it?
Now the deal is this. With all these attacks, and I was also, I had things as I was a very young girl also occur to me. With all of those horrific attacks, for some reason, I think I'm an old soul because I never held a grudge. I didn't become angry. That was my saving grace.
Right.
I always interpreted the situation as I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. It wasn't about me.
But you handled it with the divine intervention and survived it.
I survived it, and that spurred
Right.
that spurred my deeper dive into the world of manifestation,
Right.
manifesting a higher power.
Right. And when and by overcoming all these things, I imagine it empowered you and brought you to the work that you're doing. Now, you were also telling me you were married for a while.
Yes.
To a guy that was like Mr. Adventure.
Yes.
And that there are people out there that they're just kind of adrenaline junkies, and it's hard to keep up with them because you were like climbing Mount Rainier and doing all these incredible things, which I'm sure were wonderful, but like doing it on steroids, like
Yes.
Yeah. And so I imagine that other people identify with this too when they encounter someone like that who's super fun, super adrenaline, but maybe to too much of a degree that it's hard to keep up with.
Well, that wasn't our issue. Actually, my nickname was ATC.
Yeah.
All-terrain chick.
Yeah.
I followed along pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did amazing things. We had wonderful adventures.
Yeah.
And I'm not the, quote, adrenaline junkie, but I do like to have fun.
Right.
And I love
could see that.
I love traveling.
Yeah.
And we literally,
time.
We had a great time.
And this was like 13 years you were with them, right?
13 years we were together.
Right. So I know it was a heartbreak for you. What made you leave that?
He was unfaithful.
Oh,
Very,
that'll do it.
Very
that'll
unfaithful.
Do it. Okay.
Yeah. And it wasn't about me. It was sort of a serial situation with him.
It's always interesting to me how I would say men, but I guess it's people could just, have such a wonderful relationship, be married to someone they love, have like ideal partner, and then cheat on them. But you know what? That's like a whole nother show. So I just want to say that you probably took your strengths from getting over your divorce and these different plights that we just talked about, and use that for the greater good, to write this book, and also to help your daughter who, once you became a single mom, I know you moved to, it was Del Mar, was it? Or
The Del Mar area.
Del Mar area, because you thought it was great schools.
Yeah.
And then your beautiful young daughter end up being bullied and had to switch schools, and that was a whole nother trauma thing that you got involved in with the schools, creating a program to help empower people or children that do get bullied. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that, we could have listeners that their children may be being bullied, and being a psychotherapist and being someone that's handled this, personally, I'd like to share some of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So not only was I a psychotherapist for 20 some years, I'm no longer working in that because what I do is off the charts a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
But I also was a school psychologist for over 18 years.
Wow.
And that's when I left my husband, I decided to create that as a way of raising my daughter in an easier environment with summers off and all of that.
Right.
And also having the opportunity to work with children and families, because I have a real fondness for children. And it did break my heart when my daughter, whom we adopted at birth, and truly was a gift. She's a gift in so many ways. Very sensitive, very beautiful, very intuitive young girl. And she was bullied, terribly bullied. By,
and this is becoming so common.
Yeah.
They say that the social media is perpetuating it.
Yes, actually, she was cyberbullied as well. And even though I was, quote, in the biz, and I would go to her school and I would complain and I would, report on this and that happening, because it was so over the top, where girls were threatening to get their older brothers from high school to beat her up on the way home. She was in middle school at the time, a very difficult stage developmentally for most kids.
That's so
middle
scary.
School.
That's scary. And I know somebody else that their child was bullied, and they went to the school and complained and wrote letters, and come to find out in investigating it that it really falls on deaf ears. They don't really do anything. Is that true?
It did occur that way for me at the time.
Yeah.
She's 23 now, so this was 10 years ago or more.
Right.
And that was shocking to me.
But then didn't the school end up coming to you saying, hey, let's create this anti-bullying program?
No, I took it upon myself.
Oh, you took it on yourself.
There was the National Mean Girls Conference that was happening in Orlando, and I said, I have to find out. I have to get to the bottom of this. And especially someone such as myself, who had been targeted in life in so many ways.
Right.
And as I mentioned earlier, he nearly lost my life. I certainly didn't want my own child to undergo anything.
I want to back up to that National Mean Girls Conference. Does that still exist?
It probably does, because for
That'd
2
be good
years.
to know.
So what I did was I went back there, and I happened to meet the producers, who happened to give me a ride to the airport 45 minutes away. And I was sharing my story of my daughter's difficulties. I mean, literally, I would be driving her to school and she would be in tears. And I won't go into all the mean shenanigans, but it was pretty bad.
You and I have talked, and it seems that you often manifest things that, whatever's going on, all of a sudden there's the person, all of a sudden there's John Gray, all of a sudden there's the person that does the Mean Girls Conference. It's kind of...
Did I mention I'm an old soul?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just saying, I think I came down
people.
here. I came down here to realize that no matter what happens to anyone, you have yourself. You have the God within you, that divine essence.
Whatever
powerful.
Anybody calls
Whatever anyone wants to call it.
Yeah.
That life force within you is more powerful than you would know.
Right. Or than any human atrocity that you'd be trying to overcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I want to say is your essence is much more than you would ever realize.
Yeah.
Someday when we're up there, playing harps on the clouds and going, wow, if only I'd known.
Yes.
So I'm down here to remind people, to reveal to them who they really are.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I decided, after this ride to the airport with the producers, they then asked me, would you come back and speak the following year in Las Vegas at the Hilton? And I had never spoken, to a large room before.
Right.
And I was flattered, and I said, sure.
Yeah, and this is for the Mean Girls Conference
that was for
Vegas.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so approximately 9 months later, I got a message, we'd love to have you, and we want you to speak in about 2 months. 3 weeks later, I woke up in the middle of the night and went, OMG, I do need to have something to really share, a product.
Right.
So within 3 weeks, it was downloaded to me this book called Be Friendship Focused, BFF, Be Friendship Focused, and it's a manual with scripted dialogue for any mentor, because the schools today, they don't always have the the educated people. They don't have the manpower to handle the amount of relational aggression that's going on, et cetera.
And I love that anagram, the BFF.
Thank
that was
you.
brilliant.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So anyway, long story short, I went around the country for 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
And had the book to try to sell to help pay for the airfare and the hotel. And in San Antonio in 2011, a publisher saw my manual, loved it, and then asked if they could publish it. And my daughter, at the same time, we created the A to Z power cards. So it's her painting. She's very artistic in mine. It was a mother-daughter experience.
Oh,
and
wow. That's beautiful.
so children love manipulatives. It's like an oracle, and it has a power character building word for every letter of the alphabet.
Oh,
so
I
that
love
was
that.
Yeah, so that was that.
So both the book and the power cards are put into some schools.
Yes.
For them to help empower kids against bullying and creating self-esteem. And
Correct.
Yeah, that's
Correct.
awesome.
Correct. In fact, I was having dinner the other night in a restaurant, and I overheard a school psychologist with her husband discussing her heavy caseload. And I leaned over and said, hi, and I told her my story. She says, oh my gosh, I have the power cards. I love them.
Oh
so,
my gosh,
yeah, all these
that's
years
so
later.
cool.
Yeah, so it was very
You
nice.
know, I want to talk about RelationShift, the book. But first, just to wrap up the bully thing, your daughter had switched schools.
Yes.
And at some point was going to go to a party and see the girls from the old school that bullied her.
Yes.
And I love this story that you shared with
Okay.
me about the advice you told her to tell them when they would approach her, because she knew they would, and they would try to bully her. Tell them what you told her to say to them.
Okay. So in this book, BFF, Be Friendship Focused, this manual, it's filled with subtle energy exercises in palatable language for public schools. So again, working with your energy system and sort of the human condition, which really rolls on love and is diminished with fear.
So when they came up to her and started to bully her, what did you tell her to do?
Okay, she didn't want to go to this. I actually switched schools the following year, had to drive her to school and all this, but it was worth it, of course. And she was invited to a posh event for the 13-year-olds with a dance and a slumber party the night before with a decorating committee. And she was so thrilled to have these new friends who were actually sweet and nice and blah, blah, blah. Well, days before this event was to happen, she came to me and said, Mom, I don't think I want to go because the mean girls are going to be there, and I just know they're going to hurt my feelings. So then what I did, and I recommend this to every parent, is you always ask your child first if they want your advice. You don't want to just give random advice, because then it's going to be met like...
It has to be their idea.
Yeah, exactly. So would you like some advice on this? Sure. So what I said is, you've been there, done that with these mean girls. In other words, probably they may certainly try to hurt your feelings or exclude you or do something vicious even, or put you down, call you names, whatever. So if you are confronted, this is what I would recommend. You make eye contact for no more than 15 seconds. You look directly in their eyes. And as you're doing that, I want you to raise your frequency. And by that, you're going to think about something really special, like you won passes to the Black Eyed Peas concert and you're going shopping at Nordstrom's.
Yeah.
Okay. And then after you've done that, you say, and the person that's, haranguing you thinks you're listening, but you're really not, because you're not giving any negative body language. And then you simply say afterwards, thank you for, I'm sorry you feel that way, but can we talk about this another time? Like you've heard them. I'm sorry you feel that way. Can we please talk about this another time? She said, Mom, that is the most corny, ridiculous thing. And I said, well, you asked for my advice. She decided to go to the event. She called me the next day. She was in a limousine. And I went, wow, you are a manifester. She said, yes, and we're on our way to go shopping. So then she said, Mom, when she came home, Mom, I took your advice. And she just literally sighed and said, it worked.
Wow.
It worked, yes. And Mom, I did exactly what you said. We're friends.
Oh.
You're friends?
Oh,
yes.
my gosh.
The biggest compliment to me was one of the biggest bullies asked me to be her Facebook friend. And that is an honor we would all like to have from, our children's friends.
So by raising her vibration and looking the person in the eye,
Standing in her power.
and really kind of taking her power back with the words that you suggested, that's what breaks the...
Well, you're not taking
You can't give your
on.
power away to people, in other words. That's the message I want people to get.
Yeah, there are what we call chi vampires, people that are always going to be grabbing more power. It's a natural, unconscious way most humans work. When you have enough power, you have an abundance of self-empowerment, you feel that amazing self-confidence.
Right.
Which is the most attractive attribute anyone could ever have.
Right.
Then it's like...
That disarms them.
Well, it's like, have at it. I have more energy than Carter has pills. Go ahead. You know, you can...
I think that's a good message because in our culture, women tend not to have self-esteem. When people see that, they take advantage of that. So it's so important that we build the self-esteem. And one of the things that people should take away is what we think and what we say empowers us or takes away our power. And so in our kids, it's so important to instill them seeing themselves in an amazing light, doing amazing things, and then they'll manifest that.
Right.
So we're going to be wrapping up our interview, and I want to talk about RelationShift because it's such an important book. Like I said, John Gray endorses it, as well as other famous authors. And the reason they do that is it's so unique. And it's about how you use letter writing, and you are a ghost letter writer in many cases in this book. And the book is filled with all these stories of how the letter writing helped to address broken relationships, whether it was love or with a parent or with a child, with someone maybe that was in an accident, forgiving the person, who caused the accident or whatever, like all these different scenarios, right?
Yes.
And so why don't we talk about one or two of those as we're wrapping up, about what some of the stories were and how, let's pick one of the stories and then how that helped to heal that relationship.
Okay. Gosh, there's so many stories.
Yes.
And they're all ghost written, actually. That is the service I provide. And by ghost writing a letter, I'm actually tapping into a client's heart. And the words come through me, but it is from their heart. I help people to express.
You're a conduit.
I'm a conduit, thank you. I help people to express where they're really at, move past the ego. I leap over anyone's defense mechanisms, their pain, their sorrow, their regret, their shame, and write compelling letters.
And what's one of those stories you'd like to share?
Wow, there are so many. Okay, so I'll give you one that's kind of cute. So this one woman contacted me, and she was married for about 10 years, and she found her husband incredibly boring. She called him a computer nerd. And although the computer nerd was a good man and provided a lovely lifestyle for her and their two children, who were 3 and 5, she complained on and on about how boring he was, their lovemaking wasn't as good as she would like, and on and on and on, and that she was ready to have an affair. So when I spoke with her, I realized in talking with her further that, and it was interesting because her and her husband both came from different cultures, different countries. And not that that has anything to do with it, but we do learn a lot from our culture, and our parents and our families are our primary teachers. So how we communicate is often sort of taken on. at any rate, the love language that the husband was, it seemed, trying to create was taken as an offense by the wife. For example, if they were in the swimming pool, he might splash her playfully, and she would take it as, I just had my hair done, what do you think you're doing, and get upset. Anyway, so I said, well, listen, you have a lot at stake here, and he's a good man. And before you throw in the towel and run out and find someone to have an affair with, let's give it a shot. I wrote a very beautifully seductive, if I may say, passionate, loving letter of respect and appreciation. Really, for all of the love and the goodwill and protection and all of the good elements that this man brought into their relationship and provided for the family. As soon as she got the letter, she called me and said, I need your book immediately. So, okay, she got the book. And then I didn't hear from her, which is normal because I'm not doing therapy. This is a coaching tool. I open the window, okay? So anyhow, I then ran into her some months later. I said, my goodness, how are you? She said, I am so happy. I am completely happy. I said, really? What's going on? She said, we're in love. What? I said, you're in love? You're in love? Yes, we are so in love. What happened? Did he love the letter? I didn't give him the letter. You didn't give him the letter? No. I keep threatening him and teasing him and saying, one day it's going to be on your pillow. But not yet. And he wants that letter. And I said, then what did happen? She said, Kristine, I read the letter. So in reading the letter, she understood what was really revealed to her was how she was showing up.
So sometimes the letter is cathartic to the person who is the one that is like writing it, so to speak.
Correct.
With your help. And the other is the recipient sometimes is changed. But you know what I love about this, and I think people should pick up this book. It's called RelationShift by Kristine Grant. I take it it's on your website.
It's on the website.
Which is?
www.inspiredheartletters.com.
Inspiredheartletters.com. And they can also get it on Amazon?
On Amazon. It's in Kindle and it's in paperback. The audio is yet to come up. That will be next.
Well, you know, no matter what situation it is, any relationship that needs some healing, take a look at RelationShift. See all the different people that were helped by doing the letter writing. And I think you'll really enjoy the stories and enjoy the book. So definitely want to pick that up. I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the good work that you're doing to help people, people to heal.
Thank you.
Keep doing the good work.
I just want to say I've been writing those letters for 15 years.
Oh my gosh.
And nearly as many men as women ask for my services.
I love that.
It's a blessing for me to help in that way.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be here again next week. Make it a great week. Hugs and happiness.